In May of 2021, a Sonic Anniversary livestream ended with an extremely brief teaser for the next mainline Sonic title. Rumors began almost immediately, sparked by just a few moments of the titular hedgehog running through a lush green forest. What could fans of the series expect? We all speculated until December of that year, when the announcement trailer was revealed during the Game Awards. The landscape seemed vast, the vibe seemed melancholy, and just like that, speculation kicked into even higher gear. What exactly was Sonic Frontiers? The game's title hints at exploration, the unknown, discovery, the boundless enthusiasm that comes with conquering the unknown. And now, Sonic Frontiers is here, today, literally. Sega and Sonic Team did in fact send me a review code early, so thank you very much to them. I did not get paid to review this game, I was given a code, so please, this is not a brand deal. In fact, they sent me a code so early that for once, I was able to complete the game before you guys got your hands on it. And after completing it, I won't sugarcoat my opinion right now. Sonic Frontiers is one of the greatest and one of my absolute favorite Sonic games ever made. Whew, this is gonna be a rough comment section.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. It's that point in the console generation where it's time for the internet to lose its collective mind about a new 3D Sonic game. Blah, 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 blah. Sonic doesn't translate well into 3D. Insert meme about 3D Sonic games here, etc. Look, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to celebrate one of my favorite characters and franchises by completing the latest Sonic game. Sonic Frontiers, in my eyes, swings big and somehow managed to exceed all of my own expectations to be one of my favorite things I've experienced this year. I've enjoyed it so much that I'm going to tell you right now, this game gets my completionist rating of completed at this moment. So stick around, relax, and let me share with you my journey with Sonic Frontiers. Also, light spoilers, but not as bad as you think. I don't ruin anything, I promise. Let's go.
Yes! All glory goes to the winner!
There's a cadence to every Sonic release, going back decades, that is especially pronounced for 3D Sonic titles. A Sonic game comes out, people laud or bemoan whatever mechanics have been implemented, there is some riffing on whether or not the game is one of the good Sonics or just written off as mid at best. So much worse attached to that. Then, a few years go by, another Sonic game is announced, and there's a re-examination of whether or not the prior game was good actually, leading up to the new one's release. And then we do the whole song and dance again and again. Sonic Frontiers, the first new 3D Sonic game since 2017's Sonic Forces, might just be the game to break this cycle. Now, I do want to add, while most Sonic games are pretty heavily debated online, I've gone on record several times this year that I was incredibly excited for this game. And then IGN got the exclusive rights to showing the game's first gameplay reveal and in-game graphics engine, and I was not impressed. I thought this preview did little to show the concept, let alone overall it looked real bad. Then, a few days later, I went to Summer Games Fest hosted by Jeff Keighley, and I got to play the game in person. I got to play a lot of the game, and call it nostalgia blind or whatnot, but the build I played seemed more far along and better put together than the IGN first preview from just a few days ago. And immediately I knew I was going to really enjoy Sonic Frontiers. I do also want to add the caveat that what I consider completion at this time of making this video, I think is the definitive statement as to what completion is, but someone might find something out that I didn't, a secret boss or a different secret level. I'm fairly confident that I got everything in this game, including the Platinum Trophy, but hey, you can yell at future me if I got all this wrong. All right, so from the jump, it is clear that Frontiers is doing something different than other 3D Sonic games. There is no lengthy expository cutscene setting up all the major players. Instead, we get a glimpse of Eggman slapping a device into a weird-looking stone tower. Then he gets sucked into said tower against his will, and then is transported somewhere in the cyber realm. Then, cut back to Sonic, Tails, and Amy Rose flying through the sky on the tornado. with them following and chasing several signals of Chaos Emeralds, when suddenly the team encounters what looks to be like a huge digital portal and is then thrown from the sky. It looks like it's curtains for Sonic, but instead of death, he emerges into what feels like the Sonic Generations or Sonic Forces version of a Green Hill Zone. He blasts through the level and emerges into a green, rainy world. And in short, he's tasked with objectives from a mysterious voice. Find the Chaos Emeralds, destroy the Titans, and tear down the walls between dimensions. From there, the vast Starfall Islands are open to him to explore however he pleases. Boiling it all down, Sonic must save his friends, solve the mystery of why he's able to slip between dimensions, and harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds in what is probably Sonic Team's most ambitious storytelling effort in decades. All right, now I know I just threw a lot at you guys, but this is one of the strangest setups to a Sonic game in a while. But thinking about it, this game, or the idea of this game, has been a long time coming. The arc of AAA game design has swung towards players' freedom in the last few years, and I'm not surprised that Sonic Team is taking a bite out of that apple. Lead designer Takashi Iizuka emphasized in a Shack News interview that the open world format in Frontiers is something that they've wanted to do for a very long time. Instead of just linear levels, Sonic Frontiers throws out the structure of every other Sonic game up to this point in favor of player freedom. The adventure is spread over 4 main islands, with another island that acts as a conduit between itself and the final island. All 4 islands are packed full of things to collect, but the main goal is always the same: find and obtain the 7 Chaos Emeralds on every island and defeat the Titan that protects it. Sometimes Sonic can find emeralds by engaging in a short minigame challenge, but often the emeralds are sealed in vaults, which can only be busted open with vault keys. Keys are found scattered throughout the environment, but the most consistent and straightforward way to find the vault keys is by clearing stages to completion in the digital cyber realm stages. But slow down, you can't just jump right into the cyber realm. First, you need to find the portals that lead to these stages and then unlock those portals with special gears, found by battling enemies, completing challenges, and doing side quests. Once you finally gain access to a cyberspace stage, you're able to experience a classic Sonic level, some of which are 2D, some are 3D. Each stage has up to 4 vault keys that can be earned, and all of them are tied to different objectives: clearing the stage period, clearing the stage under a certain time for S ranking, clearing the stage after finding 5 red rings, and clearing the stage with over a certain amount of gold rings. Meet all 4 objectives, and Sonic is rewarded with the additional vault keys. These Cyber Realm stages are literally what 3D Sonic games have been for the last several decades, give or take a couple of things here and there. There are at least 7 Cyber Realm stages on every island, with the last island having 9, but Frontiers is far more than just racing from one stage to the next. The map, empty at first, gradually fills up as the player encounters and completes little micro puzzles. These puzzles are short and simple and appear as bright red icons to the player as Sonic speeds past them in the overworld. Some of these are as easy to overcome as jumping on 3 switches, some require the player to beat feet to a specific location in a matter of seconds, but with every short puzzle completed, the map is gradually filled in, revealing more objectives, enemy locations, and secrets. If what I'm describing sounds like 3 separate games, you would be correct. And that's just what's on the surface right here. Sonic is also trying to solve the mysteries of the island itself, why everything has a weird digital overlay, and is also there to rescue his friends to boot. And to do all of that, he must do something he's never had to do before in a mainline Sonic title: engage with the skill tree and have stats. Because even though Sonic runs fast, in this game he can run faster after a few upgrades. The very light RPG elements folded into Sonic Frontiers may feel out of left field to many, but they exist as just another way for players to express themselves. Sonic has 4 stats to increase: attack, defense, overall speed, and ring capacity. Improving these stats requires players to find even more types of currency: red attack hearts with thorns around them, blue defense seeds, or melons, or orbs I guess, and Cocos, little bipedal stone people who are legally distinct from Koroks. On top of all of this, Sonic can earn sparkly skill pieces, which turn into skill points. Those can then be put towards new combat and mobility options. That's not all. On every island, there is a Sonic character that must be rescued. They're trapped in a strange digital prison. Sonic cannot even interact with his friends until he finds enough of their unique character tokens scattered throughout the world. And finding these unique tokens is the majority of the gameplay cycle here. These tokens are as plentiful as Korok seeds. You open your map, you look around, you're gonna see exactly where they are, and you're not gonna know how to find them. And figuring out how to get them just adds that much layer of depth when it comes to Sonic Frontiers. Each character is locked to an island, so you can't find Tails tokens on Kronos Island, which is exclusively tied to Amy Rose's tokens. All the while, Eggman's new digital puppet gone family member Sage is trying to be a stopgap for you to succeed along the way. The non-linearity confronting me as I began my completion journey of Sonic Frontiers did feel a little intimidating at first. Having completed nearly every Sonic game, I had a conception of how these games are structured, and Frontiers tosses almost all of what I'm used to out the window. Instead of a straight line to completion, I had to consider an orb of possibilities. Obviously, beating the main story was my priority, but I also needed to do things like max out all 4 Sonic stats to level 99, completely uncover every part of every map, collect all the character tokens on every map, and perfect every Cyber Realm stage. Now, I was playing on the PlayStation 5, and I knew that would mean I had to keep an eye on the trophy list for anything crazy. You never know when an achievement will pop for something like beat the entire game without dying or what have you. Now, modern Sonic games don't really have this problem, but with an expansive open zone game like this, you never know. And to go along with all of this, I played the entire game on hard mode, and to be frank, yeah, it actually was pretty damn hard, mostly when it comes to combat or QuickTime events. If this whole package doesn't exactly sound like a Sonic the Hedgehog title that you would know and love, you're not wrong. And I don't blame you if all these different hooks don't sound immediately appealing to you. But despite the deluge of new mechanics to learn and the disconnect longtime fans may feel regarding the art direction here in the game, to me, Sonic Frontiers feels as revolutionary as the original Sonic Adventure did on the Dreamcast. I know I sound like a broken record a lot on this show, but indulge me if you will. I love Sonic, always have, probably always will, unless my boy does something crazy like drop $40 billion on a social media platform just to set it on fire for fun. I freely admit that I have a soft spot for Sonic, even some of his less well-received 3D excursions as well. But I'm not being hyperbolic when I say Sonic Frontiers is a game changer for the character and possibly even the entire series. Now, this game has been called Sonic of the Wild or Breath of the Hedgehog, take your pick, for as long as we knew about the basic premise. But Frontiers is so much more than that. Yes, the Starfall Islands are dotted with ancient towers and ruins, and each one has a distinct biome. And yeah, the music is sparse and piano forward. Yes, the micro puzzles really do feel like finding Korok seeds or doing the shrines. But the difference here is the sonicness of it all. This might be an eye-roll worthy distinction, but simply having the player character be Sonic with the boost air movement set makes for an entirely novel experience. I want to note that in interviews and comments over the last few months before the release of Sonic Frontiers that the devs seem a little defensive of their game, that it's being compared so much to Breath of the Wild. The lead designer makes a point of not calling the game an open world Sonic game. And it isn't, at least not really. The phrase Sonic Team has landed on is open zone, which includes linear action platforming gameplay in an open-ended environment. I understand wanting to make a distinction here. I imagine it'd be annoying to work on a game for years just to have a critic write it off with all the passion and hard work that went into this project by lumping it in with Zelda. That said, I see where people are coming from, but if anything, I would compare it more to Super Mario Odyssey than Breath of the Wild. Odyssey feels like a celebration of everything that makes a Mario game fun and put that man in a totally new environment with its own new physics and rules. Sonic Frontiers does something similar. Each island is vast, but getting from one side to the other is hardly a slog. In fact, it's incredibly fun and very, very well designed. Making movement feel good was clearly paramount for the developers of Sonic Frontiers. In this game, Sonic does a lot of running back and forth between objectives. The majority of this game is spent in the overworld, so by extension, running around the overworld needs to be fun and exciting. By placing Sonic in such open-ended environments, there is naturally tension of how to fill all that space. The answer the devs landed on is surprisingly simple. Use the tools that give classic Sonic levels their distinct identity and scale them up. Sprinkled throughout each island are grind rails, speed boosts, and springs all over the place. Their placements may seem random at first, but once you start to get a feel for each area, you'll realize that everything is very intentionally placed. This becomes even clearer the more time you spend completing specific objectives. Once you start interacting with Amy Rose, Knuckles, and Tails by gathering their character tokens, ancient rails will appear. These ancient rails are super long grind rails that make maps even easier to move across and make the completion process even more streamlined. I actually like that I had to work to unlock more rails and traversal options instead of having every island be fully revealed upon discovery. story. The sense of exploration is fully integrated into every aspect of Sonic Frontiers. For the first time in what feels like a long time, there's a real mystery to uncover for Sonic and his friends. Reveals come in small bites, and uncovering these revelations is always satisfying. The central gameplay loop of Sonic Frontiers is rock solid. Completing any sort of challenge feels rewarding. Coming across any sort of enemy, from little robots that can one-shot with a standard homing attack, to screen-filling titans, it all feels thrilling. With maybe the exception of the first hour of gameplay, I always felt empowered to overcome whatever I came across in inventive ways. And again, everything ties back to movement. There is a fluidity to Sonic's movement in this game that feels really natural. It is easy to pivot from puzzle solving to combat to traversal in the blink of an eye. And the further along the Completionist timeline I proceeded, the smoother everything felt. Until by the final island, I felt like a pro. Pretty much anywhere you explore, you're going to find something useful that inches you forward to completing the game. A vault key, skill pieces, upgrade materials. No matter what I was doing, I was being rewarded in some capacity. This is a really difficult thing to do in a way that is consistent and fun. But with Sonic Frontiers, I constantly found myself saying I would complete just one more small puzzle, grind one more rail, have one more conversation with Amy Rose, and then being late to things or looking up at the clock and realizing it was 2 a.m. It is a delightful surprise that Sonic Frontiers feels simple and good to progress through. Everything feels really player forward, giving you the option to find your favorite ways to unlock the Chaos Emeralds. But if you are going full completion, you'll eventually have to uncover every Cyber Realm stage. I do have a few nitpicks here. Okay, I have a lot of nitpicks here. Each of these stages pulls from Sonic's past due to some story-related stuff, which I'll get into in a minute. But for the third or fourth game in a row, Sonic Team is dipping back into environments and assets they've used many times before. Now, I understand the need to put a few Green Hill Zone themed levels in the mix, but I found myself pretty disappointed that more of these stages were not completely new environments. Instead, they're all remixes of something. It's as if Sonic Team looked at Sonic Generations and Forces and said, yep, that worked great. Let's just do that again. And so they did. Which, to be clear, I'm not super mad at. Generations is an incredible game. It came out a decade ago. It's just a little bit surprising the degree to which the game makes you feel like you're playing recycled content, and it's just right there, front and center. Imagine if they had taken inspiration and did remixes of games that weren't featured in a 3D realm before. Take Studiopolis from Sonic Mania, make that 3D. Hydro City or Hydrocity for the meme. Oil Ocean. Hell, take some stages from Sonic Lost World or do a weird deep cut on a DS game or something. Anything except what was featured here. This is another reason why I was a little bit reminded of Mario Odyssey. The way Sonic Frontiers remixes nostalgia is really effective, which is why I can't get too upset that there is a lack of truly original feeling levels, especially when you consider the gigantic overworld. These stages are not the focus of Sonic Frontiers. Even though there are 7 on the 3 main islands and 9 on the last main island, they probably only account for like 2 or 3 hours of gameplay total. And in my timeline, that's barely a blip. The vast majority of Sonic Frontiers is spent outside of these stages, which is perhaps why none of them feel particularly memorable to me. There are a couple of small other things that bother me about the cyber stages, specifically the 2D levels. Something just feels busted and I can't quite put my finger on it. It may have something to do with the fact that there's not really a spin dash. Yes, there is the drop dash, but that's different. It makes these movement in these 2D cyber levels feel less like their inspirations. As someone who can crank through most early 2D Sonic titles with one hand tied behind his back, I know when something feels off, and in certain stages of Frontiers, they do. The 2D stages have homing, which is great. That's a new adaptation of the mechanics. But the new moves that you acquire outside of the overworld cannot be used in any of the 2D or 3D Cyber Realm stages. The 2D stages really feel like a lot of stop and go platforming, which one could argue, yeah, that's what classic Sonic was. Except this game isn't really classic Sonic as much as it wants you to think. All in all, the Cyber Realm 2D stages are my least favorite thing about Sonic Frontiers. That said, I will say the 3D stages do feel much better. There's even a stage that feels ripped right out of Sonic Adventure 2, and I popped real hard. I loved it. and the boost mechanic actually works the way that it was intended. But even though every stage has its fun moments, I found out that out of the 37 stages, none of them super stuck out to me except for the one. There are only so many chemical plant zones I can speed through before they all become a blur. Another contributing factor to the homogeneity of these levels may be the music in the cyber levels. Even though the visuals are nostalgic, the music itself doesn't quite hit for me. It's not that the music in the cyber realms is bad, they're actually really great tracks in there. The true problem is that you can't really associate which stage or which theme matches the song. So in the end, you have these really killer tracks that don't have a real connection for the player to associate with the stage you're playing. Compared to the time spent on the islands themselves, completing every cyber stage was a fraction of the total completion experience. I was able to complete almost every level in just 1 or 2 tries, maybe 3 at max. Hitting all 4 objectives is a snap if you're a Sonic pro. Overall, I found the choice not to focus on traditional Sonic stages to be a really compelling one. By putting Sonic in a totally new context, I was able to appreciate the character in many brand new ways. It sounds like I'm coming down really hard on the 2D and 3D traditional elements of Sonic for this game. It's only because I feel that this is one of my areas of expertise. I feel like I can be more critical of some of those elements. But the new stuff in Sonic Frontiers is some of the most exciting Sonic gameplay I've ever experienced. It's inventive and incredibly engaging. And the way these new elements interact with a different type of storytelling for the series totally works. Sonic Frontiers swings for the fences every now and then, and it does hit a few home runs. So earlier I said the Cyber Realm music was not as impactful as the overworld music, and I still do believe that, but with all that said, the Cyber Realm music does slap pretty hard. It's kind of the opposite with the island overworlds themselves. The melancholic piano vibes of Kronos Island are awesome. It's not just a few plinking keys here and there. The overworld theme is stirring and memorable, builds in intensity, and fades when it needs to, including some familiar Sonic 06 music motifs. In fact, every island's music makes them a joy to explore. The desert environment of Ares Island looks and sounds completely different than Kronos Island, and that applies to every new location. They are musically distinct from each other, and though I wasn't unlocking new soundtracks or anything like that in previous Sonic titles, they are still a delight to hear. Obviously, the visual art direction is probably one of the more striking parts of Sonic Frontiers, and in the course of completing the game, I would agree. The ancient ruins and mysterious statues feel familiar but still distinct. Sonic is definitely no stranger to old, crumbling infrastructure, but he still expresses his awe and wonder at some of the sights he encounters. The blend of untouched ruins and crazy Sonic staples like springs and rails feels like it should clash. It should clash, right? And yet I found the blend of the two worlds charming. If anything, seeing these things juxtaposed made me even more intrigued by the story. That said, the downside of releasing a game in the midst of the world coming back from a global health crisis into modern platforms and remote workstations everywhere is that there's so many different platforms you've got to worry about. Completing this game on the PlayStation 5, I didn't really run into any gigantic major bugs or issues as much as one would expect. But the bigger issue that I did encounter a ton is the poppin' elements of the overworld. This game obviously is multi-platform, with Switch being its lowest common denominator with regards to performance and design. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and X, let alone PC, should be running this game great at locked frame rates with little visual issues. Although the frame rate was pretty consistent for me during my entire playthrough, the game does suffer from significant pop-ins, which can lead to you spiraling a bit about how it's a bummer to see the paint chip off the wall in your brand new Sonic-themed house or apartment. Whether Sonic fans patch and design something better, or Sonic Team proper decides to release consistent updates, Sonic Frontiers has the potential a few months from now to perform better and better. With the important thing being, none of this breaks the game or ruins the entire gaming experience at all. I do want to touch on that the last few islands do kind of feel the same as the first island. Again, kind of a bummer when you think about the biomes that are available in the Sonic universe. We had an ashy volcano that looked like snow. We had a desert area. Sticking with the ruins, why not do something like a abandoned city, or lean harder into something like a real true snow biome? Similar to the Cyber Realms, it just seems like time was needed here. And truth be told, if this game came out probably in February or March of next year, I feel like we would have been better off with it. What we do have here is something special. Now, there are a handful of mysteries at the heart of Sonic Frontiers. One of the main concerns of the plot is where exactly are we in this whole mythos? These islands are covered with contraptions that seem specifically designed to contain the Chaos Emeralds. And at nearly every portal to the Cyber Realm stand a few of the little Coco characters. just hanging out. Sonic is able to run around freely, but his friends are transparent cyber people, and they're unable to escape this weird halfway point they seem to be stuck in. Most concerning are the Eggman ships that appear to be crashed all over all the islands. But Sonic can't seem to find Eggman himself. It turns out that the plot of Sonic Frontiers is sort of a chosen narrative. This is a tale of the origin of the Chaos Emeralds, the Master Emerald, and the mysterious alien race called Chaos. Or Chows, I guess. Technically, not really, but you know what I mean. The island feels alive in a way that few environments from Sonic's past ever have. Whenever he talks to an NPC, Sonic gleans a little more information and has a greater understanding of the world he finds himself in. But one of the most interesting called shots in Frontiers is the characterization of Dr. Eggman himself. Now, Eggman is always portrayed as a blustering, overconfident genius. He's always so focused on the big picture that he misses what's right in front of him, eventually leading to his defeat from Sonic time and time again. But in Sonic Frontiers, Eggman becomes multi-dimensional in more ways than one. He's literally trapped in another dimension, so he must use his genius in a productive way rather than to harm others. But the most interesting thing here is his relationship with a new character, a girl from the digital realm named Sage. Sage essentially becomes Eggman's surrogate daughter. Sage sees only the best in her maker/father. She wants to protect him from the dangers of the digital world and from the power of the Chaos Emeralds. She naturally sees Sonic and his friends as a threat to her father, so cautiously she observes Sonic whenever and wherever she can and attempts to thwart his progress the entire game. She sees the best in Dr. Eggman, and through her, the player gets a glimpse of what Eggman as a father figure could look like. It is crazy to me that this game's narrative worked so well for me. Partially, I think that's from a narrative perspective. Sonic Frontiers incorporates a ton of Sonic lore from the character's entire history of its franchise. Iizuka, the lead producer, approached Ian Flynn to write the script. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ian Flynn has been writing the IDW Sonic comics for something close to a decade. And he said it was a dream come true to write for this game. This game is full of nods to the history of different characters and moments from other Sonic games, and feels like it was packed full of references for superfans like myself. And within that realm, the characters just become more and more fleshed out. There's something so surreal about Sonic referencing that time with that character in that one game that you played from several years ago. But even more interesting that the characters we interact with remember that too. Even beyond the Eggman stuff, there are many touching moments with other characters. I've always appreciated the rivalry turned friendship of Sonic and Knuckles, which is on full display here as always. But for one of the first times ever, Knuckles cannot use his strength to solve the problem and must humbly ask for help from Sonic to escape his digital prison. And to his credit, Sonic only teases him about this a tiny bit. The two have developed a respect for each other. And if you're a fan of Sonic's lore, the way this game respects its history of these characters feels incredibly authentic. This goes double for the Tails stuff in Frontiers. For years, Tails has always been this sidekick little brother character, the one who hangs back as Sonic saves the day. In Sonic Frontiers, this frustration actually boils over and leads to some powerful moments, especially in the side quests. Tails wants to be a leader, not a sidekick. He's tired of being looked down upon. Every relationship in this game feels grounded, and for the first time in a long time, Sonic as a franchise feels like it's growing up. Now, I'm not saying this is all perfect, but over the course of completing the game, I gained a new appreciation for every character and the dynamics they have with each other. Having Sage observe Sonic interact with his friends and take all this in is also a smart choice, as it lets the players see through these characters we've come to know through brand new eyes of a stranger. I did find myself wishing that the animation in certain cutscenes was a little less awkward and that the editing was a little bit tighter. Some of these pauses between lines can feel clunky at times, and it does mess with the pacing. But the dialogue itself mostly lands and drew me into this world. Even Big the Cat is here, and you know what? Hell yeah! Enter my Big the Cat respect zone now. I used to hate this motherfucker, and now he is here and he is fun. That's one of the best things I can say about Sonic Frontiers, is that not only did I love when Big the Cat showed up, I actually enjoyed the fishing minigame that he gives the player access to. I'll say that again, just for emphasis. Sonic Frontiers has a fishing minigame, and it is good. It's simple and easy and fun. It's also a massive boon for completionists if you're a little bit lucky. First off though, you can't just roll up to Big the Cat and start fishing right out the gate. You have to find an access portal to his little hideaway. And you can't actually go fishing until you have some purple coins saved up. Yet another currency sprinkled throughout the islands. But once you've got yourself a nice little stash of purple coins, you can fish to your heart's content. Catching different fish gives you different amounts of what are called fish tokens. And these fish tokens can be exchanged for almost anything besides Chaos Emeralds. Need a couple of extra vault keys to unlock an emerald? Go fish. Need a handful of character-specific tokens and can't seem to find them or are tired of doing these puzzles over and over again? Go fish. Have your attack stat leveled up to 97 out of 99 and just want 2 more orbs to complete that objective? Go fish. Again, this is another notch in the column of player freedom that lets Sonic Frontiers engage with its fans so effectively. I found it massively helpful that I could rely on Big and his big old fishing hole whenever I needed a specific currency that I couldn't find otherwise. Every single fishing hole in every world leads to finding fast travel things too. You can find these special scrolls that will allow you to fast travel to any of the Cocoa Elders on the map. And hey, if you miss Eggman that much in this game, you can purchase these really awesome Eggman tapes from each fishing hole, and they all are really great. Going back to player freedom, if you think about it, Big the Cat in his fishing hole allows you to sidestep a lot of the gameplay choices that you may not like. You can significantly reduce the amount of puzzles and areas you need to explore if you want to. You can full on skip a majority of the Cyber Realm levels if you want to. Big the Cat is your gateway into ignoring content or enjoying it. And attached to that, in the very end, as long as you have these purple coins you find, you should be good. These purple coins are scattered randomly all over every map, and honestly, they're kind of hard to find. But similar to Breath of the Wild, once you've eliminated a large portion of the on-map guardians, essentially a meteor shower begins. The meteor shower drops these little, like, starbit type rocks that if you collect, will then open a slot machine. This slot machine gives you a chance to earn purple coins. I earned hundreds and hundreds of purple coins through these slot machines every time, which meant that Big the Cat basically helped me break Sonic Frontiers faster than I expected to. The way the digital realm introduces on the otherwise idyllic world of Sonic Frontiers is very cool. Instead of Eggman robots or, you know, big ass fighter jets, Sonic instead faces an army of black and red robots with different abilities. Some of them are pretty easy to defeat, but others require special techniques. I especially enjoyed Sumo and Tank, 2 mid-sized mini-bosses who required a little finesse and skill to battle. I've never fought enemies the way I have in Sonic Frontiers, and the combat reflects the movement in narrative in terms of aiming for something big and knocking it out of the park. I do want to add that until you upgrade your attack and movement speed, some early encounters can feel really annoying. One of the core combat maneuvers is the side loop, where you hold a button down to create a little sparkly trail and try to trap enemies in a circle. It's a neat move and feels great to pull off, especially on a massive Shadow of the Colossus-sized Titan. I was genuinely surprised at how engaging the combat feels even after 24 hours in. The Titan bosses feel like the best parts of a Sonic Adventure boss fight. Every Titan feels unique, and transforming into Supersonic is always a thrill. And shoutouts to the Supersonic theme in this game. The music absolutely rips in these sequences and always made me feel godlike. It's a dumb little thing, but the music is what makes it fun. Even though I knew Supersonic was going to show up, how could he not in a game so focused on the origins of the Chaos Emeralds? It's still a blast to fly around and smash giants like it's Dragon Ball Z. At the end of the day, I found that the risks Sonic Frontiers takes with its story, music, visuals, and combat to be incredibly satisfying. I think this bold new direction for the franchise and its characters elevates the series to another level. And in the end, completing Sonic Frontiers is a really satisfying journey, if not a fun one. Sonic Frontiers takes Sonic to new heights in nearly every capacity. Boundaries are pushed in gameplay and story, and practically every action feels satisfying to perform. All in all though, there isn't really much of a tangible reward when it comes to actually completing Sonic Frontiers from every single aspect. Let's start with leveling up Sonic's stats to the max. This isn't actually all that difficult. The requirements for raising his attack and defense levels do scale and change a little bit over the course of the game. It's honestly not that bad. If you're committed to completing the map by totally filling it out, you're almost almost guaranteed to find enough blue and red thingamajigs to raise the levels to where you need them to be. And if you don't find them out in the wild, you can always just go fish. Maxing out ring capacity and speed was a little more complicated, but not for the reasons you might think. Finding Cocos was pretty simple. They aren't hidden from view and in fact are scattered plentifully all over the place. It's not a problem to find what you need, but trading them in for levels takes a surprisingly long time. Unlike the Elder Coco with the attack and defense stats, the Hermit Coco can only raise ring capacity or movement speed one level prompt at a time, which meant that I had to button mash my way through the same 4 lines of dialogue nearly 80 times to raise those stats, instead of being able to just level them all up in one lump sum. It's definitely annoying, but not the deal breaker by any means. Maxing out all 4 stats doesn't give Sonic anything extra aside from some achievements and trophies attached to this feat. There aren't any unlockable costumes or cosmetics for getting all your skills or doing all the side quests. Sonic doesn't even have a home base or trophy room or lore bookshelf or whatever to fill out. The only thing that comes marginally close to any of this is the fishing compendium, where the new fish that are caught are registered with a little fact about them. Did you know that poison dart frogs are dangerous? Well, I do now thanks to this fishing compendium. Filling this out doesn't net you anything except for 1 trophy for doing it one time completely through at a fishing hole. But I'll never grow tired of the lo-fi Beats to Fish 2 soundtrack anytime I visited Biggs the Cat's realm. Probably one of the most fascinating things I found out during my completion journey was the differences between the endings of normal and hard mode. Now, tiny spoiler right here, but not for plot. The endings are the exact same on all difficulties. If you beat the game on normal mode, you get the same ending on hard mode. After taking down the final Titan, you then go and fight the End, which is this large planet-looking entity. Beating it on normal mode boils down the fight to just basically be a button prompt, and that ends the fight entirely. The ending plays out, and one of the many great rock and roll tracks plays during the credits. However, if you beat the game on hard mode, when you get to this fight, instead of it ending in a button prompt, you jump into a pretty hard twin-stick shooter segment with the final boss, the End. This fight had me hyped the entire time because this being just talks trash to you, even referencing the fact that Sonic has fought gods and kingdoms, and still, this is not enough to stop the End. And during the final credits, there's a track that's performed by Nate Wants to Battle. This is the only time this song is performed in the game to my knowledge, so I think it's cool the game does give you something special for going that extra difficult path. And this is something that you want to experience. You can toggle the difficulty at any given moment before these fights. Now, when you beat Sonic Frontiers, you will unlock Arcade Mode, which is just a collection of all the Cyber Realm levels in a long list. In these stages, you can earn S rank for the best times and get the 5 red rings again, just like you normally would in a traditional 3D Sonic game. But after recompleting these stages by getting S rank and getting the red rings again, I can confirm you get nothing. No trophies, no acknowledgement, no golden star, nothing. Just a big old pile of disappointment. The game does keep track of your time for S ranks, but not the red rings unless you boot up a specific stage. I guess Arcade Mode acts as a means of simply being able to quick select any of those stages. By the time you're done, I have a feeling you're not going to want to touch them ever again. Now, it might sound like I'm gearing up in a way to say that I was disappointed by the lack of a true completion bonus. I find that's hardly the case here. Journey alone is incredibly compelling. I completed Sonic Frontiers, Platinum Trophy and all, in just under 30 hours in one playthrough on hard mode. And I loved almost every second of it. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age here, but for me, I simply enjoyed the ride the whole time.
You know, it's a shame that Frontiers is kind of pulling a Horizon Forbidden West in terms of a release date, because I don't want this game to be overshadowed by God of War Ragnarok, which, let's be clear, we're all really excited for. I want Sonic Team to make more games like this that take risks and celebrate what makes Sonic great and memorable, and most of all, fun. Sonic Frontiers manages to feel fresh, but still pull on the heartstrings by paying respect to Sonic's past. It's a fantastic new addition to Sonic's legacy. There isn't much at the end of the completion rainbow, if you will, but when I had as much fun as I had by simply playing the game, I don't mind it at all. Honestly, at the end of the day, I say don't sleep on Sonic Frontiers. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of completed. Enjoy the game and have a great week. Bye.
Complete it!